Hello. I think I'm live. I think I'm live. Yes, I think I am live. Okay, so as soon as I see him, I'm going to add him. All right, bring on the camera. Hi, Jeff. Miss you. Let's see. Let's add them. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. This is another Get Naked talk show with Dr. Aura. And yes, I'm here very naked in my son's room. And because I'm having some technology issues. Yes. Jeff, you could help me. Chris is supposed to be coming on, my guest today. He's full of tips for you guys. So please share, like,
Hey.
Are we better?
I hope so. No? No better.
No, I just. Oh! You don't hear the echo?
I can, yeah, a little bit. I can hear it on your side. I wonder if you try putting in your earbuds.
No, it's much worse with the earphones. What do I do? What is the answer?
Try putting in some headphones.
Yes. Let's try doing that.
Let's see.
Oh, guys. I had $1 for every time.
I know. I go through this. I've been doing some Facebook Live with Dr. David Warman lately. Every single time we get on, every time there's an issue.
This is so bad, Chris. Can you guys hear the echo? If you're watching, could you please put a comment just so I know if this is happening only in my head.
All right. Is that any better?
Oh,
Does that work?
Amen.
Does that work?
Chris, this is so, it's gone.
Awesome.
It's gone. Look at that. If everything in life had such an easy fit. I like your house.
Oh, thank you.
Keep doing this live while you walk around. I like it.
Oh, yeah,
like
right.
it.
We can do that.
Very.
Got my-
Who does that? That just
picture
can't
of
do the
BJ
10X.
up there.
Yeah. Oh, look
Yeah.
at that. That's awesome. Well, welcome. I'm sorry for the harsh beginning.
Oh, no, not a problem.
But welcome to the show. It's Friday, and I wish I was in college, but I'm here, and I get to talk to you. So we are going to make this day the best that we can.
Awesome.
And I know you're going to share so many tips because I just, like I told you yesterday very briefly when I reminded you of this call, I think you're a guy that I always wanted to meet, and I can't believe I haven't met you yet.
Yes, I know, right?
I know. I feel like we have had to have cross paths at some point. And I know you were so kind to do some work for us for Caro Mission. But for the people that don't know you and don't know a little bit, don't know your story, which I'll be surprised who doesn't. But for those people, what can you share with us about you, where you're from, anything you want to share with us, Chris? And welcome to the show.
Thank you. So just I get my backstory is back in so I graduated high school in 1994 and was a really bad student. I graduated like 122nd out of 140 and went to college because that's what you were supposed to do. I had no idea. Went in with an undecided major. My dad was actually going to college at the same time as me, believe it or not. He was a coal miner for 17 years, and then his mine closed, and he went back to school. So we were on college campus together at the same time, and he was majoring in sociology. So I was like, well, maybe I'll major in sociology too. So I just picked it as a major just because I needed to pick something. And within 2 years of college, I had failed out. And my parents were like, okay, well, you got to get a job because you're not living with us. And so I was like, okay, well, I worked as a satellite dish installer for a while. I worked in the dealership, the service department of a car dealership. I worked as a bellhop. I was kind of jumping from job to job. And then one day I opened up the newspaper. I was like searching for something. And I saw this ad for like healthcare facility, help wanted, no experience necessary. And like my first thought was like, all right, it's healthcare. That probably pays pretty good, And so I was like, I didn't know, like, ended up as a chiropractic office. They didn't even mention that in the ad. So I showed up to the office and pulled up in the parking lot, and there's this big red sign just said chiropractor. And I was like, oh, it's a chiropractor. So I walked in, and the front desk, the front desk manager, her name was Sherry. She was like, you must be Chris. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, how'd you know? And she was like, well, you're the only guy interviewing for this job. And I was like, what? And I looked over, and there were like 20 women like in the waiting room, like filling out the application and stuff. And he did like a group interview. I was like, I mean, honestly, like, I mean, I was 21 at the time, and I was just like, well, I was 20 going on 21, and I was like, you know, maybe this I'm in the wrong place. Like, maybe this isn't the job like I thought it was, you know? It's like, I didn't, you know. So anyway, I kind of gave like some half-assed answers, like on the during the go around when he was doing the group interview stuff, because I just kind of wanted to get out of there. I thought, like, well, you know, I'm the only guy. It must be like not a guy's job, you know? So I ended up leaving that day, and I got a phone call like 2 weeks later, and Sherry was like, hey, Dr. Strong wants to invite you back for a second interview. He really liked the way you carried yourself in the interview. And I was like, what? You know? So like I ended up going back down there, and he sat me down. It was like a 5-minute thing, and he was just like, hey, look, I like the way you carried yourself, and like the job's yours if you want it. And my next question was like, okay, well, how much does it pay? You know, I'm thinking healthcare, like I'm gonna make him $20 an hour. This is back like when minimum wage was $5.25, you know. And he was like $6 an hour. And I was like, oh, okay, you know. So I ended up working in his office, but I'll tell you, I got a lot more than like I should have been paying him to work there, because the amount of he was very purpose driven, in love with chiropractic, and he just oozed chiropractic. He was very, you know, philosophical. Like we would work. His office was open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. like 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So like we would stay after from like 8 till sometimes 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and we would just talk chiropractic. And that's where my love for chiropractic started to really grow. And then in 2000, late 1999, he was like, you need to go to school to be a chiropractor. You need to go back to school. And I was like, all right, well, where do I go? And he was like, you go to Parker College of Chiropractic, greatest school in the nation, Dallas, Texas. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to Parker. So I started going back to school and doing some prerequisites in Pennsylvania, where I'm from originally. And I was taking a couple classes, like 2 classes. And in August of 2000, I packed up my Ford Escort, and I packed it with everything that I had. I had $2,000 saved up, and I even got the mattress of my bed in the car. Like I literally took the mattress of my bed and crammed it into the car, and I drove 1,200 miles to Dallas, and I roomed with 3 guys that were all Parker students at the time. I was the only like non-Parker student, but I was like, you know, trying to go back to school. So I showed up, but like the day I left, I got 10 miles down the road and my car engine blew up. So then it was like, my mom was like, it's a sign from God, you're not supposed to go, because she didn't want me to go. And I was just like, no, I'm going, you know. And it's like I had $2,000, and it cost $800 for a used engine to get it replaced. So now I'm down to 1,200 bones. My mom's like, you have no friends, you have no family, you have no job, you have nothing. Like, why are you going? And I was just like, because this is what I'm supposed to do with my life, Mom, you know? So like, I ended up leaving and made it to Dallas, got a job in a chiropractic office here. And within 2 years, I failed out of school again. So not a good student. And, you know, it's like all the prereqs, like I took algebra 4 times trying to pass it, you know, biology, chemistry, and that, like all that stuff, I just wasn't good at it. And at that point I was like, you know what, I'm happy being a chiropractic assistant. I'll be a chiropractic assistant the rest of my life. Like I love this profession, and I do not want to do anything else than chiropractic, and what, you know, as far as like serving in some sort of way. And my job in the offices I worked at was I was a tech CA, but I also went out and did the marketing. So I did all the spinal screenings, I did corporate talks, lunch and learns, I did dinner events. Like I did the speaking at these offices and stuff, and networking groups and all this stuff. And I brought in new patients. And one of my roommates graduated Parker in 2002, and he was like, hey, I want to open an office, but I don't know the first thing really about getting new patients or doing all that stuff. He's like, how would you like to go into a 50-50 partnership with me? And you and I'll open an office together. I'll do the chiropractic stuff, and you do the marketing and do like, the patient communication and education stuff, and we'll build an office together. So we scraped together $12,000 between the two of us. Couldn't get a bank loan because we had no assets and horrible credit. And I had a refund check from the IRS that year for $3,000 plus some credit cards, and he had a bunch of credit cards. And we bought our furniture from Big Lots. We bought fold-up chairs. Our front desk came from Big Lots. We bought some posters on eBay. We had no x-ray. We did have a Surface EMG. We found on Craigslist at the time a Surface EMG unit for like $2,000. So that was our diagnostic equipment. And we opened an office for that, and grew it to a practice within 7 years that was doing $750,000, seeing about 250 patient visits a week. And I ended up, long story short, he and I kind of butted some heads on some things. He wanted to become very more medically integrated. Like I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stick to chiropractic. And so we ended up doing a buyout. So he bought my half of the practice in 2010, and I got pretty good at marketing at that point. So I started teaching chiropractors how to market, and I was, putting out a lot of content and some courses. And then I ended up creating an agency called Van Burf Media, where we do advertising for Facebook advertising for chiropractors. So that's the story.
Ooh. That is a story. I don't think I had ever heard it. So I'm glad you told it here. Teaching chiropractors how to market. When you said that, I almost cringed, but because I was like, oh, okay. So this is, and I usually on these interviews, just like I told you, it just flows, and I ask the things that I know I want to know, because I imagine other people might want to know. But yes, teaching chiropractors how to market, yes, just made me uncomfortable, because that must be hard.
It is.
Yeah, because we have a lot of passion, and then we do, and we want to reach the masses, but just we honestly don't have a clue sometimes how to get the message across in a way that is not rejected because we come probably too strong. I know I have been wrong so many times, in the sense that I just come across so harsh that I just repel people instead of attract. So on that note,
I was going to say, that's actually one of the keys to building a tribe of loyal fans, and that ultimately turn into loyal customers, is having a message that is polarizing to where you repel certain parts of the population. You repulse them, actually, and then you...
I've been guilty.
Me too. And, but through that, you also attract those people that are like-minded and think and have the same philosophy. Like, I give an example of this all the time. There's a medical doctor here in town who does not vaccinate his kids, and he's vocal about it. Like, he lets parents know, like, when they come in, like, his thing is, like, if you want to bring your kid in for vaccination, I'll vaccinate them. He's like, if that's your choice, that's your choice. Like, if you've done the research and that's what you want, then I'll do it. But he lets them know, like, just so you know, like, I actually don't vaccinate my kids. And then people are like, what? And some people are like, really? And then he, he'll explain them. Like, he did this with us. So, like, my daughter's been to him one time. It was for a well baby checkup at 1 year of age. And we did it just as a formality, really, And went in there, and he's like, do you want to vaccinate? And I said, no, I don't. And I'm expecting, like, I'm expecting him to, like, come at me. Like, I'm like, come at me, bro. I'm ready, And he's like, do you want to vaccinate? And I'm like, no, we don't. He's like, cool. Actually, I don't vaccinate my kids either. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I've just read too much stuff on it. But as a result of this, there are people in the community that think he's dangerous, right? And there are people that talk bad about him. But this guy also has one of the busiest practices in the entire county. Like, so many parents go to him because they don't want the guilt trip of taking them to their normal pediatrician, doctor, or whatever, to get vaccines if they don't want to, or they just want to partially. So there's a lot to be said about being polarizing in your market, like where you've got a strong message where you repel those that are not in alignment with it.
Yeah, it's just sometimes I feel that maybe you just didn't get your point across correctly, and then those children are going to hurt and going to keep getting antibiotics, and then they're going to suffer. And you can't help, we chiropractors sometimes get so passionate and we get so involved that we feel almost guilty, right? Even though it's their choice. And if people can just have an educated choice. I was speaking to some other interview, Shandale, and he was so awesome. It's just like, if you just can we just give people the right educated choice so they can choose? People are going to choose. You can choose to have water. You can choose to have a Coke. You know what Coke does to you. You know what water does to you. It's a choice, but at least and you can choose. So what do you think is the best marketing tip that we can give out to be able to educate in a way that we, yes, it's okay to be strong in your message, but to be able to get through deep enough for people to get the education needed to make the right choices for them and their families.
Like one of the things that I have this client in South Carolina, like they just opened, matter of fact, their grand opening is on Saturday. Like they hired me like 2 months before they even opened their doors, because they're like, we want to create a presence in the community and we want to position ourselves as experts in pediatric chiropractic care. So what we ended up doing is I had them make like 3 videos. One video was like, 3 ways to boost your child's immune system naturally. Another video is a fever a good or a bad thing? And then the third video was, helpful tips for children that suffer with ear infections, right? How to get relief. So we just did some what I call goodwill content, right? So there was actually no pitch in it at all, because they weren't even open. But what we did is we set those up, and one, you can do this 2 different ways. You can post it to your Facebook business page, or you can take those videos and you can do that and you can boost it, right? Do like a boost post, which a lot of people do because it's simple and easy and it's not that complicated. But the other thing is, like, you can actually set it up like as a Facebook ad and maybe spend $10 a day on it. So spend $10 a day. So you're talking $300 for the month. And you run that video content in your community. Now, here's what's interesting is that inside of Facebook, like if anybody logs into their Facebook ads manager, so it's facebook.com/ads manager. And if you go there, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little button, that you can click on that says ads manager, and it drops down and there's a section that says all tools. And if you click on that, it opens up another window and there's a section in there called audiences. And you can go into audiences and you can create what's called a custom audience. And you can base it off of how long somebody watched the video. You can do this with all your Facebook Lives, by the way, as well. So like, I
need your help, Chris.
Yeah, I got a tutorial I can send you on it. Or you can hire me. But when you go in there, you can set up and say, hey, Facebook, I'm about to run this video as an ad. I want you to create an audience of people that watch 10 seconds of this video. So maybe it's a 2-minute video. I want you to create an audience of people that watch at least 10 seconds of it. I also want you to create an audience of people that watch 25% of it, 50%, 75%, and it goes all the way up to 95% of the video. So what we did with them is we created these audiences, right? And we targeted moms. So we targeted like women aged 25 to 38 that live in the Charleston, South Carolina area. And that was who we decided to show these ads to, because these are all moms that probably have kids that get sick and ear infections and run fevers and stuff like that, right? So over 2 months, we built up an audience of 13,000 moms in the community that watched at least 10 seconds of their video, and an audience of about 8,000 that watched 50% or more of their video, right? And then for their grand opening, we set up an ad that retargeted that audience of people only. So nobody else in Charleston, South Carolina saw the ads for the grand opening. It was just this group of 13,000 moms that had engaged with their video on some level and saw their content over the last couple of months. And they have, as of Wednesday, I mean, and the grand opening's tomorrow, so we're still running ads, but as of Wednesday, 100 people are registered for their grand opening. 75 of them are from the Facebook ads. And these are all moms bringing kids to the event, and really powerful stuff. You know, and I know that may sound a little techie for some people, but like, I'll tell you, if you just go into even just YouTube and type in how to create a video custom audience on Facebook, like there are tutorials there. Yeah, everything's free these days, you know. There's nothing you can't get. We live in a world that where information is at our fingertips. We just have to search for it a little bit, you know.
Wow, I love that. I love that because obviously I'm here taking notes. I'm here taking notes, and I've watched a lot of your videos, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah. And then I just, you know, I don't do it, or I get lazy, or I start, and then life gets in the way, and that's why a person like you comes handy.
Yeah, right.
Because you can follow through.
Well, that's
right?
what I get from a lot of docs. They're just like, yeah, I don't want to do it myself, Chris. Like, it sounds great. I just don't want to do it myself. So why don't I just hire you to do it?
Yeah. I just think it's great. But if we had to just get really broad here, what do you think is missing in the chiropractic profession? You have dealt with a lot of chiropractors, and you have gotten a kind of a grasp from both sides, which is the audience and the chiropractor himself, and their passion and what people want or need or whatever it is. What do you think is missing if we had to, like, a fill in the blank kind of a game, and you had to just say, okay, it's missing this. If we plug this in, we'll get our juices up.
You know what I think is missing? I think, like, so I had this conversation yesterday with a chiropractor who, I think he's more, from what I've seen from his posts and stuff like that, he's more like, you know, evidence-based, more medical, like, in his thinking than, you know, chiropractic's good for musculoskeletal conditions, that sort of thing. And I had made a post about, you know, whether you agree or disagree with this post or not is besides the point. I just want to share, like, the conversation that happened. But, like, yesterday here in Texas, there was a medical facility that did a Facebook live stream of an open heart surgery. And so they did that because they wanted to show people, well, actually, I shouldn't say it was open heart. It was actually a heart surgery. They have a new type of heart surgery that they're doing now where they can replace the valve without having to cut
it's less invasive, yeah.
And they wanted to broadcast it to calm people's fears about, this is what they were saying on the news last night here in Texas. Like, they wanted to calm people's fears that this is not a surgery to be afraid of. So I had made this post, and I was just like, you know, these guys are like broadcasting heart surgery on Facebook Live, and you guys are like afraid to show somebody getting adjusted, you know? And like, and I get it, you know, there's a lot of bad videos out there of like people cracking backs, and it's almost sounds like they even throw in sound effects to make it sound worse than it is, you know?
Worse.
You know, I get it, you know, and that's kind of the debate of like, you know, there's a way to present it, you know, but this guy in particular, he says to me, he goes, you know, I would never show an adjustment because I think it's bad for people to see that. And I was like, well, I disagree. I think it would be a good thing to show people, as long as it's presented in the right way, like, because it could help calm a lot of fears of people being afraid of an adjustment and being like, well, hey, it really wasn't that bad. It's not what I thought it was. I thought he was going to, you know, rip his head off like in the movies and crack, you know. And we got into this discussion, and he says, well, you're the reason why chiropractic, it's people like you, is the reason why chiropractic is not progressing. Because you want to have, like, you know, you stick to these old school ways and stuff. And I said, well, what are you doing to get your message out there that's progressing the profession? And he goes, it's more of what I'm not doing. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, if more of what you're not doing? Like, if you're not putting your message out, how are people in your community hearing the message where you're progressing chiropractic to tap into that 10, 15, 20, 30, 40% of the population that we want to get to, you know? And like, just crickets, didn't say anything because he didn't have an answer, you know? And it's like, I feel like what's missing is a collective effort where everybody does their part on some level through social media platforms. Like, we live in a day and age, I've said this for years now, that we have the ability, this profession, and I always say we, I'm not a chiropractor, but like, it's like I say we because I've been in the profession 22 years, I love it. So like, this profession, if it wants to move forward, we live in a day and age, for the first time in the history of the chiropractic profession, we have the ability to compete with big pharma without having big pharma's budget. If everybody collectively was teaching through video content, doing some Facebook Lives, teaching people about where true health and healing come from, giving people tips and advice on, hey, you know what, for example, is a fever a good or bad thing? Hey, it's a good thing. You didn't know that, did you? It's a good thing. It's burning up all the bugs in your kid. Like, let that fever run, like that sort of thing. Like, if we were teaching our community, like, that type of stuff becomes shareable. And when people, like, you can make a post, and then, like, I saw my buddy Caleb Braddock, he's a chiropractor in Van Alstyne. They took a stand on the abortion issue, as that recent abortion issue that took place in New York, where late-term abortions are now legal.
Yeah.
As an office, they took a stand against that, and they did a Facebook Live, and they said, hey, look, we stand for life. There are some things that people say you shouldn't talk about in business. Well, you know what? As a chiropractic office, we stand for life, and this is something that we want to, like, that's been weighing on our hearts over the last week here. And what we want to do is we want to show people that we stand for life by taking a stand against this. And if you'll stand with us, here's what we're doing. They teamed up with a local charity it's a place where young mothers can go that feel like they don't have any options and maybe considering abortion, and they can go and they can learn more about adoption choices, or if they want to keep the baby, like, they supply them with diapers and baby food and all these things like that to help them out. Well, Caleb said, we're going to do a diaper drive. And this place right here in town, I forget the name of it, he's like, your vote, if you stand for life, all you have to do is bring by a box of diapers, and that will be your vote that you stand for life. That video, in like 3 days, got 95,000 views. He had people all over the world ship them diapers. They did another Facebook Live a couple weeks later showing their whole office just filled from the ceiling to the floor, from the floor to the ceiling, with diapers. And that topic that became people shared the heck out of it, right? That's the type of stuff, like, if we take a stand in what we believe in as far as chiropractic and health goes, and we begin to educate our communities, our stuff can become very shareable, just like Caleb in that particular topic that it was a hot topic at the time. But like, that type of stuff, if we work collectively and we all do our part and make a commitment to, like, I'm going to do just one video a week. If you got 60, 70,000 chiropractors making one video a week that teaches their community something about health, and that thing becomes shareable, it's like we can make a huge impact. But like, the problem is, I get people that are saying things like, well, I'm uncomfortable on video. Like, I'm afraid that people might not, I'm a little overweight. I'm a chiropractor. I'm afraid that they might, think that I'm being hypocritical, or not hypocritical, but contradicting, like, and trying to teach like these types of things. They come up with all these excuses, but the thing is, like, if your message is a good message, it doesn't matter what you sound like, what you look like, what you talk like, like, if you got a good message, people will share it regardless of all of our flaws. It's like, you're showing, like, let's get naked, right? It's like, let's just peel off the mask and start being ourselves. And and if that means sometimes you're polarizing, then sometimes you are, and other times you're not. It's but yeah, I think that's the thing that's missing, is that not everybody's doing their part. I've seen.
I just love that. I love what you said, because it is so true. We sometimes let our fears of not fitting in, or what are they going to say, or being accepted, or not turning people off, and we don't tell our truth. And if we don't do it, who else will,
Right.
right? I know that I've been very naked in my journey, and I said, how many times I've, stuck my foot in my mouth, and how many times I've perceived to be failed, right?
Right.
Perceived as failures in my life. And I think Get Naked was created because of so many things, and I just decided to just be naked, be raw, be vulnerable, and come out with obviously a system that was helping me to come out of the hole.
Yeah.
Because of the situation that I was in and that abusive relationship. And then I realized that it could help so many people just to get out of their minds and just do it, because really people are going to connect to you being real, to another human transmitting some loving message, transmitting some truth. We are hungry for
Right.
it. We are at a time that this is the time to do exactly what you said. To who cares? Yes, I have bloopers every single time I go live. And so what? I keep doing it. People are always going to talk. You know how many weird messages I get, Chris? Oh my God. I could make a whole book out of the weird messages the naked lady gets. And hi to everybody that's listening. Hi back. We love and appreciate you. Share it, because what he just said right now was so vital. I love what you said, Chris. If all of us can collectively put good information out there to help save more lives, to help educate the public, to help people have a good choice, an educated choice, because that's all we need. They're gonna do whatever they're gonna do when they have the information. They're gonna do it, and that's not your
That's
problem.
right.
But at least you put it out there. I just love that. I'm sorry for
No,
interrupting.
you're not interrupting. I love what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. It's like you put the truth out, and people either accept it or they don't. And maybe they don't accept it.
That's fine.
Maybe they don't accept it today, but maybe 2 years from now. That's the thing. Like when we create content, like we're creating assets in our business when we create content, because this stuff lives forever on the internet, right? And like what, right? Yeah, that could be a good or bad thing, right? But like that's one of the things. Like when I work with clients, like I tell them, like if you look at your own consumption behavior of online stuff, like I give an example of this. Let's take Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm sure you know Gary Vaynerchuk, right? So he's an online, or has a marketing agency and whatnot, does a lot of social media for those of you that don't know him. But Gary, I first learned about Gary like back in 2014, I guess. And a couple of my friends like, hey, actually I had a friend of mine said, hey, I'm going to send you a book. It's called Crush It. And he's like, this was like 2015, I guess. And he goes, I'm going to send it to you. And I want you to read it. It's by a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. I really like him. So I got the book and I read part of it, and it's like, because I'm not like a big reader. I like to listen on audio, and but that was kind of my first exposure to Gary Vaynerchuk. And then I had some friends that were like, hey man, like you should check out this Gary Vaynerchuk. He's awesome. It's like he's dropping F-bombs and blah, blah, blah. He's totally your type of guy, So like I started listening to some Gary, and I listened to a couple of videos, and then it was like, a few months had gone by, and I saw something pop up in Facebook, and it was another video of Gary. And I was like, oh yeah, that's that Vaynerchuk guy. So I started watching it, and then I went over to his Facebook page and started watching that. And I was like, well, I wonder if he's on Instagram. So I went over to Instagram, started following him over there, went over to YouTube and binge watched about 6 hours of Vaynerchuk on YouTube, right? And as I'm watching, I'm getting more familiar with him and his message and stuff like that. And I begin to like resonate with him, right? And then every time Gary's released a book since, like I've been like one of the first people to go and get it. It's like, oh, he's got a book coming out. I'm in, love his stuff. But I did the same thing with Grant Cardone, except I actually spent $80,000 in about a 2-month time period with Grant Cardone. And I went out and I initially bought his course after watching him for about 3 or 4 years. Bought his Cardone University for $5,000. I bought it because they gave me as a bonus, I got a one-on-one with Grant in his office. So on February 14th, 2017, on Valentine's Day, I flew into Miami, had a one-on-one with him. He sold me 2 super VIP tickets to GrowthCon for $10,000 each. And I ended up signing up as a contributor to their Grant Cardone TV, which was another $60,000 for the year. So I spent $85,000 in 2 months with Grant Cardone. because of the content I consumed, and it's like I became a raving fan. And like when I talk to people, I'm like, when you market in your community and you're able to show your stuff, this is one of the reasons I love Facebook ads, is because you can retarget those audiences I talked about, and the same people see your stuff over and over and over again. And you can really create raving fans. And they may not become a patient in your office today or tomorrow or a week from now, or even 2 years from now. But if they continue to see you over and over again, when they come to a point where they feel like, you know what, I need a chiropractor, you're going to be the first chiropractor they think of, because they're actually following you and consuming the content. Like from the time I learned about Cardone till the time I spent 85 grand with him, it was like probably 3 years. I had never bought anything from him for 3 years, and then bam, I went on a spending spree. So like that's the mindset you have to go into when you do marketing, is like, don't be discouraged if you don't get the results right away, because like if you keep consistent with it, you'll like the floodgates will eventually open.
Yeah. I'm with you in so many things. I'm gonna confess right here that I am horrible at marketing. And I had never even run a Facebook ad until recently, that some guy contacted me and said, can I run some Facebook ads for you for free? And I was like, sure, whatever. Obviously it didn't turn into anything. So I'm here confessing, being very naked with you. And I'm sure you have heard this plenty of times before. So right? I have never, so it's okay. But hey, I'm going to say it. So I ran this thing and nothing happened. And I was like, hey, people Google me, people find me because of my other patients. I don't need you. And that was that. But obviously it was not a successful ad, because so many people can say they can do it, but it's not everybody that can. And I was thinking, I remember telling the guy, I said, I want you to do what some guy always says on his videos to do, and I want to just put content out there so then we can retarget. I remember saying those exact things because you are in my head somewhere. And the guy couldn't do it. He didn't know what to, and I was just too busy to be on top of it. Right. So I never really tried it. I'm a virgin, and I'm ready to be de-virginized on that sense. So please, to do it the right way.
Right.
Okay, no, just kidding. No, but here we are on the Gimmicky Show with Dr. Auda. So anything goes, and hey, it's okay. And you, Chris, have been fantastic.
Yeah, I love being on here. Thanks for having me.
I love what you gave us, those tips. I was taking notes because whatever, if I choose to hire you or not, maybe, I don't know if I can afford you, considering you just spent 85 grand with Grant Cardone. But that is a conversation I am sure I'm going to have with you. And maybe we can do it the right way, and I will have an even better taste in my mouth about marketing, because it's all in your head. Marketing works all the time, but you have to do it right, in my opinion.
No, you're right.
I'm sure you agree with me on that one. But this was great. So now, before we go, I want you to tell the audience where they can find you, how they can reach you. But I want you to say also, if you have any life lessons, any last tips that you want to share before you give your information, or even a story. I think we have a little bit of 5 minutes to do this. So go ahead, Chris.
Yes, just real quick. So like, I've been in chiropractic for 22 years, and not too long ago, I got, there was a guy, another chiropractor on Facebook, that thought he was like doing me, like calling me names by calling me a chiropractic. He called me a chiropractor wannabe. Right. And he's like, you're a chiro wannabe, and it was like, and like, he thought like he was saying something to me that was like, being rude. Right. Or, wanted to get me riled up. But, the truth is that, I wanted to be a chiropractor at one point. I just wasn't a good student. It didn't turn out that way. But like, I could have turned my back on chiropractic at that point and said, hey, look, I'm never going to be a chiropractor. There's no way I could work for, as a chiropractic assistant for $10 an hour the rest of my life. Like, I'm just going to go find something else. But I love the profession too much to turn my back on it. And that's why I'm still here after 22 years of, working and serving and helping chiropractors and helping people all over the world. So like, if you ever call me a chiropractor wannabe, just know that I'll take it as a compliment, because you're right. I did want to be a chiropractor. So one of the places that I actually have a gift for everybody if they would like to check it out. Yeah, so
Yay! We're going to post it right here.
so I wrote a book recently called Propaganda Marketing Machine, The Insider Secrets to Promotion, Domination, Prosperity, and Freedom. And the book is designed to show you how to become, position yourself as an expert and authority in your marketplace. There's we talk about the 7 rules of influence with social media, how to not get caught in the monkey trap, which is all about not being afraid to give up the value. There is a section in there called the Lamborghini close, which is one of my best closing techniques. So there's a lot of great information in there in the book, and really focuses mainly on social media and how to get your message out on these different platforms and do it in a very effective way. So if people go to intentionalpropaganda.com/book, they can get a free copy of it. All you have to do is pay the shipping. It's $5.60 domestic. If you're in Australia, I think it's $12.95, and Canadians are Canadians are $12.95, and
intentionalpropaganda.com.
Yep, /book. So do a /book. So you can grab a free copy of it and go over there and check it out. That's my gift to you. So and you can also message me on Facebook. So reach out to me. I am at my max on friends right now on Facebook. I should probably clean that list up a little bit and get rid of some of the naysayers that are on there, like the guy calling me a wannabe. but you can always you can follow me on Facebook or send me a message and just say hi. I saw you on Dr. Otter's show, and just want to reach out and say hi. So
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for the book. I'm definitely going to get it, even though I don't want to read it. I want you to do it. But it's okay. I mean, there's so much content out there, and sometimes we get overwhelmed. Right. But I feel like taking just one tiny step towards something, and I think out of this conversation, the tiny step that we can at least tell people, definitely go get your book and start reading if you can do that. And if you have the time to do this, do it. But start somewhere. Start making one video a week and put it out there, because one video, just one action step, so we don't get overwhelmed. Doesn't need to be too long, right, Chris? 5 minutes. Our attention span is very short. And
90 seconds. Right? That's kind of the sweet spot for a video. 90 seconds.
I love it. I used to do a 1 minute when I started with Get Naked in 2014. I used to do every week a 1 minute naked tip.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was only 1 minute. It was 60 seconds. Sometimes I will go over 10 more seconds, but
I love that.
It was great. I have to get back to the 1 minute. Now I've gotten very chatty and I don't know how to shut up, but probably need to get back to my roots, because that was working. But you have been great, and you seem lovely, and I seen your pictures of your family. You are just very, 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 very nice. And sometimes you might come out harsh, but I knew you because I've spoken to you through Chiro Mission, that your heart was so big that it was helping us. So thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you.
Yeah.
I know we'll be having a chat, and if you have any questions, comments, please post them below. Share this with others. The information here was super valuable, and I know you're going to want to get that book. So have a blessed Friday and do something awesome this weekend.
If you have a question, comment and tag me in it, and I'll answer it for you. So
yes. Thank you, Chris.
All right.
Love and appreciate you,
Bye.
my friend. Thank you for what you do for chiropractic.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.